we have covered till yesterday. Okay. So if not, then let us start or continue our discussion on these Byzantine fault-tolerant protocols, or rather the consensus protocol for blockchain in detail. So till last class, means yesterday's class, we have seen the consensus protocols for the permissionless blockchain, and yesterday we have looked into this Paxos in detail, which is the kind of fundamental consensus protocol for a closed distributed system, which is based on message passing as well as state machine replication. So as I have mentioned yesterday, that typically Paxos is not that much used in blockchain. As far as I am aware of that, none of the blockchain experts use Paxos, but rather they use a kind of simplified version of crash fault tolerant protocol, which is called Raft. You can look into the Raft paper in details, and that how that works. The idea is pretty much similar to Paxos. It is something like that. It works based on kind of leader-follower strategy. So that Raft is used in Hyperledger ordering service, as I have mentioned earlier. But today we are going to talk about a kind of more relevant consensus mechanism for closed blockchain network or permission blockchain network, which is widely used in different blockchain architecture, and that is called the Byzantine Agreement Protocol. So today we are going to look into that what Byzantine Agreement means, and in a broader sense, that how this Byzantine Agreement protocols work. And in the next class, we are going to look into one of the most prominent Byzantine Agreement protocol, which is called Practical Byzantine Fault Tolerance, or PBFT. So you will see that in many of the blockchain architecture, including the Hyperledger Fabric, that we are going to have a tutorial in this course as well. So Fabric uses PBFT and variants of it for reaching into consensus. So let us start our discussion over Byzantine Agreement protocols. So till yesterday, what we have seen that the basic type of fault that can occur in a distributed system is the crash fault. That means a node stop responding, and that can be because of either a hardware fault or a software fault in the node. Now, this crash fault tolerant protocol, or the CFT protocols, they basically consider the majority voting, and in Paxos we have seen that it is basically done in 3 rounds. That first the first 2 rounds are basically used for, or rather it is done in 2 rounds. The first round is used for setting up the state for communication, and in the second round you use that state to reach to an agreement of a value. Well, so the similar kind of idea is also used in different kind of consensus modeling. So that is the reason we have learned Paxos. That will make your understanding easier about different other fault tolerant protocols that we are going to discuss. Now, in case of crash fault tolerant, as I have mentioned, that it is a kind of complete collapse of the node, that either because of a hardware fault or because of a software fault, the node starts responding. And that way, it might happen that you are not getting any kind of response from that particular node. And in that case, we basically rely on the majority voting for reaching an agreement on the state, as well as or consequently reaching an agreement on the value that is being proposed by a proposer having the maximum state. And that way, Paxos works. Now, in case of Byzantine Agreement protocols, it is much more interesting in the sense that now we are going to consider some kind of malicious behavior of the individual nodes which are participating in the consensus process. So what the node can do, that the node can send different information to different peers. Well, so in case of crash fault tolerant, either the node is going to send the correct information, or it is not going to send any information. Well, But in case of Byzantine fault, what is going to happen that the node is going to behave maliciously. That means it is going to send some information to a set of its peers and another information to the remaining of its peers. Or that means it is basically creating a kind of partitioning in the network. So in different part of the network, it is propagating different information. So this is a kind of most prominent attack which can happen on a distributed architecture. So on a distributed architecture, the attacker tries to deceive the network by partitioning it into multiple partitions so that they cannot reach to a consensus. That means majority voting is not possible. So let us see into details that how this Byzantine fault tolerant model works in those cases. Now, these Byzantine agreement protocols, they came from a interesting problem that was explained by Leslie Lamport along with his colleagues from Microsoft Research. So this the idea was what they called as what they named is the kind of Byzantine generals problem, where the nodes can behave maliciously. So the Byzantine general problem as a whole, it is something like this. So you have a fort and you have a set of generals. Among the general, there is one commander and others are the kind of lieutenant. Now, these generals, they collectively want to attack the fort, and that is the kind of their objective. Now, what happens that the commander sends instruction to the lieutenant, and the lieutenant are going to follow the instructions which are being sent by the commander. Now, in this case, if the commander is sending the messages attack to both the lieutenant, then the system is good. That means everyone gets the information that, well, now I have to attack the network. And for the time being, just assume that we are working in a perfect synchronous environment. That means the messages are received within time and there is kind of no arbitrary delay in the message or message doesn't get lost. So I'm considering a complete reliable channel, reliable message passing channel. So that way, whenever the commander is sending that instruction attack to both of the lieutenants, everyone are in the same page, so they can collectively attack the fort. So we are in a good space. Now assume that the attacker is a faulty, so the commander is a faulty commander. That means the commander shows a kind of malicious behavior. So the commander is sending attack to one of the lieutenant and retreat to another of its lieutenant. Now this is the kind of scenario when the system is not going to work or the system is seeing challenge about what to do because two different lieutenants, they got different information from the commander, and as a result, they do not know what to do or what they can agree upon. Now the question comes here that in this particular scenario, can I reach a consensus by doing message passing among the commanders? Among the lieutenants. So that is the kind of our objective. So let us see whether we can reach to consensus in this scenario or not. So we need to have a kind of consensus mechanism to decide that who is faulty here. That means whether the commander is sending wrong information. So what happens that the generals share that information with each other. So the general or the lieutenant who got the information about attack, he or she passes that information to the other lieutenant. And that way, the informations are being shared between the two lieutenants. And consequently, you can see that in this particular scenario, by looking into the information that this lieutenant is saying that I have received a message retreat. That means the commander has said retreat, and another lieutenant is saying that the commander is sending or told me to attack. So the lieutenant can somehow understand that, well, possibly the commander is going to send some different message or say going to send different information to two of the lieutenants. Well, but the question comes that have we reached consensus in this case, or by doing the message passing among these two lieutenants, can we reach to consensus? So what do you think? Means at this stage, have we reached to consensus?
No, sir.
Why?
No, sir.
Yeah, why no?
Because in this case, if we remove the faulty commander, then the uh, the action for both the lieutenants is same in number.
Well,
So
you are saying that, well, if you can still understand that the commander is faulty, but in that case also it is difficult to, or it is not possible to decide that what we are going to do collectively, means whether we are going to do attack or whether we are going to do retreat, right?
yes, yes, sir.
Okay, somehow correct, but if you just assume that, well, uh, if I somehow assume that the commander is faulty, or my objective is just to find out whether the commander is faulty or not. Well, assume that I'm not going to take the final decision. I'm just trying to find out whether the commander is faulty. If the lieutenant can find out that the commander is faulty, the lieutenant can send that information to their camp, and the camp can replace the commander. Okay, so let us think of that. My protocol is going to work like this. But if that is the case, then also have we reached to consensus?
Yes.
Sir, can we detect the commander is faulty because one of the two, like commander or one of the lieutenants can also lie, right?
Exactly. Great. So that is the case. Well, so although here your inherent assumption is that the lieutenants are talking correct. Well, so the lieutenants are not faulty. But that might not be the case because you really do not know who is faulty. You are going to detect who is faulty. Now, whenever you are sending the message in this way, it might also happen that the commander is good. The commander has sent attack to both the lieutenants. But when the lieutenants are going to share the information among themselves, one of the lieutenant is faulty, and that lieutenant says that the commander said retreat. Well, and that way you can really do not, or really cannot detect who is telling lie, whether the commander is telling lie or whether lieutenant is telling lie. Well, so what we can conclude here that the consensus is not possible. So in case of Byzantine failures, or in case of malicious behavior from one of the commanders or the lieutenants, consensus is not possible with one commander and two lieutenants when one is faulty. Because you cannot really differentiate whether the commander is faulty or whether the lieutenant is faulty. So that is the kind of challenge that we have in this case. But let us see that if we have, say, one commander and three lieutenants, whether we can reach consensus in this case or not. So what happens? That the commanders, so for that first instance, let us assume that the commander is faulty. Well, so when the commander is faulty, what the commander is going to do? So the commander is going to send attack to two of the lieutenants and going to say retreat to one of the lieutenants. Well, so the commander is going to partition the network. So with one partition, it has kept two, and in another partition, it has kept one. Now, in this case, if we see, or if we try to find out that with these three lieutenants, by sharing the message among these three lieutenants, whether we are able to reach consensus or not. So let us see that, say, these lieutenants, whatever message it has received from the commander, it forwards that message to other two commanders. Then the second lieutenant does the same. The information that it has received, it forwards that information to other lieutenants. Then the third lieutenant also does the same, that it has received the retreat from the commander. So the lieutenant says retreat to two of its other fellows, the other lieutenants. After we say, if we take a kind of majority voting, so for the first lieutenant, what we see that it has received, it will be two attack and one retreat. Well, so it is not 3-0. That is a kind of mistake. It will be 2 attack and 1 retreat. Well, so it has received an information attack from one of the lieutenants, the attack from the commander, and from one of the other lieutenants, it has received the retreat. Well, so this is the correct one. Now the second one, for the second lieutenants, it is the same. It has received 2 attacks and 1 retreat. And for the third one, it is also the same. It has received 2 attacks and 1 retreat. That means with 3 lieutenants and 1 commander, when the commander is faulty, we can just have a kind of majority voting to see how many attack information we are getting and how many retreat information we are getting. We can find out that, well, I can detect that the majority voting or the majority information is attack. So I can reach to a consensus. Well, another case, as I have mentioned earlier, that another case can be that the lieutenant is faulty. So let us see that what happens when the lieutenant is faulty. Now, whenever the lieutenant is faulty, in this case, we are assuming that the commander is good. Now, whenever the commander is good, the commander is going to send attack to all the 3 lieutenants. Now, assume that this lieutenant is faulty. So that lieutenant is going to send attack to one of its fellows. That means one of the lieutenants, and retreat to one other fellow. That means one other lieutenants. And that way, the other 2 lieutenants are the correct one. So they send the correct information to others. Now, whenever they are sending the correct information to others, in this case, if you try to find out that how many attacks and how many retreats are there, you will see that here in this case, for 1 lieutenant, I have 3 attacks and 0 retreat. For the second lieutenant, I have also 3 attacks and 0 retreat. And for the third lieutenant who has got a wrong information from one of the lieutenant, it gets 2 attack and 1 retreat. So in all the cases, the majority is the attack. So you can reach to the consensus. And now by comparing this scenario with the earlier one, you can see that you can also find out, or you can somehow guess that who is the faulty one. So in case of when the commander is faulty, the 3 lieutenants, they had an agreement with the same value. That means all 3 of them have agreed to 2 attacks and 1 retreat. But whenever one of the lieutenant is faulty, in this case, they have agreed upon, they have reached to the consensus, but they have agreed upon on different values. That means one have received 3 attack, 0 retreat. The second one have received 3 attack, 0 retreat. And the third one has received 2 attack, 1 retreat. Well, so from here, you can somehow assume or somehow identify or somehow guess that whether the commander is faulty or whether one of the lieutenant is faulty. Right? So that way, what we can see that, well, whenever I have 1 commander and 3 other lieutenants, in this case, if I assume that one of them is faulty, then in this case, I can reach to a consensus. Well, so this particular problem was termed as the Byzantine general problem. And in one of their pioneers papers by Lamport, Sasak, and Peake, we are going to look into the idea of that paper. They have discussed this particular problem, and they have said that, well, if you assume that there is one faulty scenario, that means either one of the commanders, one of the general is faulty, and in that case, with 1 commander and 2 lieutenants, you cannot reach to a consensus. But with 1 commander and 3 lieutenants, you can reach to a consensus. Well, but in this case, their inherent assumption was that they are considering a kind of synchronous network. Synchronous network means they are assuming that you can get the message from all of your peers, and at the same time, you can actually assume that the network is reliable. That means whatever message have been sent, no message have been lost in the process. Well, but from this particular problem, they have tried to actually design an algorithm which can reach to the consensus in the presence of Byzantine nodes, and they have used this kind of majority agreement, but the protocol they have developed for the synchronous network. So any query or any doubt about this basic problem of Byzantine agreement, that means the Byzantine general problem?
Sir, this is 3F plus 1 nodes, but let's say the message is not binary like attack or retreat. There is more than two kinds of messages. Then that would not be 3F plus 1, right?
Not possible, yeah. Then you need more number of selectivities.
Okay, sir.
So this is a kind of binary consensus. So either I'm going to agree on yes or I am going to agree on no. So
is in this case, are we assuming that the information passed, just one information passed, is wrong?
Absolutely. So that I have mentioned that even see that is an interesting question. So if you see that say this is one interesting fact. Okay. So this consensus protocol, they actually do not try to differentiate that which information is correct or which information is wrong. Well, what they try to believe on that what will be the majority of the information that is correct. So that means if you say that the commander is going to send 2 retreat and 1 attack, then collectively the network or the nodes will agree on retreat. Well, so because the commander has taken that as the majority, so the commander has sent 2 retreat to 2 people and attack to 1 people. Well, so in that case, they will agree on retreat. But that is an interesting problem. I would suggest all of you to try it out. So assume that there are 4 different lieutenants and 1 commander. That means 5 nodes in total. Now in this case, the commander is going to send attack to 2 of the lieutenants and retreat to 2 other lieutenants. Okay, so try to see whether you can reach to a consensus in that case or not. Well, so just take it as a kind of take-home problem. Try it out after the class. So the problem is something like this. Again, I am explaining. So you have 5 generals. Out of the 5 generals, you have 1 commander and 4 other lieutenants. Now, whenever you have 4 other lieutenants, what the commander is going to do, commander is going to create a perfect partitioning. That means the commander is going to send attack to 2 of the nodes and retreat to 2 other nodes. Well, so in this particular case, just check whether you are able to reach consensus or not. So try it with 4 lieutenants as well as try it with 5 lieutenants. Well, and see that what is happening in this case. So these are actually different kind of variants of the Byzantine general problem. And indeed, after this this particular problem was introduced by Lamport and his colleagues in 1982, and after that, in the next 10-15 years, there were actually many papers, many research articles that have been published, and they have tried to take one variant of this Byzantine general problem and tried to find out an algorithm for that. So if you look into the conferences like DISC, POTC, or ICDCS, which are the kind of pioneering conference in distributed system, you will see that the initial days of that conference, that means initial 10-12 years of that conference, around 60-70% of the papers were on this variant of Byzantine general problem. So people have considered different variants. So the 2 different variants that I just mentioned, they have considered that variants, tried to prove whether consensus can be reached in that case or not. And in case consensus can be reached, then what can be an efficient algorithm to reach to a consensus. But interestingly, in the earlier days, that means before 1999. So in 1999, one pioneering paper got published in a conference, Usenix OSTI, that talks about this Byzantine fault tolerant on an asynchronous system. Before that, majority of the papers, I think almost all the papers, they have considered a synchronous environment, but a kind of different variants of this Byzantine general problem. That means consider that 4 lieutenants, 1 commander, 2 messages to attack has been sent to 2 of them, retreat has been sent to 2 others, then whether we can reach consensus or not. Then in that particular case, whenever you are trying to do this kind of perfect partitioning, that means for 50% of the node, you are going to send 1 message, and 50% of the node, you are going to send another message. Now, in this case, whether or what can be the minimum number of lieutenants that you need to reach to a consensus. Well, so that way, there can be this kind of different variants of the Byzantine general problems which can happen. Well, so you try it out, as I have suggested, that after the class, consider at least these 2 variants. In one case, you have 1 commander, 4 lieutenants. The commander is going to send attack to 2 of the lieutenants and retreat to 2 other lieutenants and see whether you can reach consensus. Next, increase the lieutenants from 4 to 5 and see whether you can reach consensus or not. Okay. Any other query? Fine. Now, let us try to see this Byzantine agreement in an asynchronous environment. Well, so in an asynchronous environment, so till now we have assumed that it is a synchronous environment, messages are not getting lost and blah, blah, blah. So that way it is easier just to look into the, try to visualize what is happening, and from there try to find out that whether you are going to receive the message or not. Now assume that you are working on an asynchronous environment. Well, now in asynchronous environment, let us see that how we can reach to consensus. Now there is one pioneering theorem for asynchronous Byzantine agreement. It basically says that if you assume that you have F number of faulty nodes, and remember that this F number of faulty nodes actually include all the different type of faults that can happen. Well, and I would rather show you an interesting use case later on, that this counting this F number of faulty nodes is not that much straightforward. So that how many nodes are actually faulty, finding it out is a bit difficult, not that much straightforward, because as it considers that this F number of faulty nodes combine all the different faults that can happen in the network. That means the crash fault, the Byzantine fault, and at the same time the network fault. So what is that network fault? The network fault basically says that, well, you have transferred a message to one of the network, one of the channel, and that message has been lost. Well, so you are not going to receive that message. So you are considering unreliable channel. Now, if you consider all the different kind of faults together, and at a total you have F number of faulty nodes, then you need 3F plus 1 nodes to reach consensus. Okay. So that is the kind of axiom, and that is the kind of theorem that we have. Now, this formal proof of this particular theorem is a bit difficult to understand. I will try to explain it to you with a kind of simple visualization, try to give you a kind of proof idea to you. So if you look into the distributed system literature, you will see that different people have tried to prove this particular theorem in different way. Indeed, if you have done a course on distributed system, or if you are going to do a course on distributed system, then you will see that in that course, this theorem is also taught, and the corresponding proof that is being done in that particular course, that might be a little different from what I'm going to show you. But that is something that people have tried to do in different ways. Now, what typically happens, that whenever we are saying that F number of faulty nodes, as I have mentioned, that these faulty nodes combine all the different type of faults which can happen in the network. It is the crash fault, network fault, as well as Byzantine fault in combined. So broadly, you can decide a fault in such a way that a fault, it creates partition in the network. So create partition in the network means, that basically means the message from one partition will not get propagated to other partition. Well, now if you just think of that a kind of crash fault. So what actually happens in case of crash fault, or if you try to visualize crash fault in the form of network partitioning, so it can happen in this way, that for the crash fault, you can assume that from that particular node, there are n number of peers, well, and those n number of peers are actually communicating with each other with a central node, and there is a crash on that node. So it creates a kind of partition in the network. Well, so two nodes which are going to talk to each other means two nodes which do not have a direct link among them. There is an intermediate node who are going to pass information among them. And if that particular node gets crashed, you are having a kind of partitioning in the network. In case of network fault, you can just visualize it in that way, the similar way, that say for one node, one of the link observes a failure. So whenever that link observes a failure, during that time, you are not being able to send any message in or out of that link. So you can just assume that with respect to that link, the network is getting partitioned. And for the Byzantine failure, again for the Byzantine failure, if I am a Byzantine node, I have two different peers. What I am doing, I am sending one information to one peer, another information to another peer. Well, and ideally, if those two peers are not directly connected to each other, I am not going to pass information. I am not going to send the information between them. So whatever information I receive from my left peer, I am going to drop it, not going to forward it to my right peer. Similarly, what information I am getting from my right peer, I am going to drop it and not going to send it to the left peer. So this is a kind of, again, I am saying that it's a kind of very simplistic view to understand that this kind of partitioning in the network. So broadly, what we assume or what we consider that such kind of faults are going to create some kind of partitioning in the network. It might not be that it is a kind of bipartite network and the middle node or the central node get crashed, or the central node is the faulty node. That way, the network as a whole completely gets partitioned. But it is something like it can happen a kind of local partition. Well, so overall, maybe the network is connected, but within a locality, it gets partitioned. So in distributed system terms, partitioning basically means that a part of the network, they observes a different information compared to another part of the network. So that way, whenever we are saying that I have F number of faulty nodes, what we are inherently assuming that it is going to create some kind of partitioning in the network. And from that perspective, let us see that why do we need 3+1 nodes to reach consensus? Well, now assume that I have 3F number of nodes. Well, and these 3F number of nodes are distributed. And what I'm going to do, I'm assuming, so I am partitioning these 3F nodes into three different partitions. Well, and assuming that this middle partition is the faulty node. So as I have assumed that there are F number of faulty nodes, so this F number of faulty nodes are there in the middle, exactly at the middle, which are creating the network, or which are creating two different partitioning of the network, one in the left and one in the right. Well, now the left hand side network, we call it as the PL, well, partition left. The right hand side network, I call it as PR, partition right. And the middle set of nodes, which are my faulty nodes, I call them as the PF or partition faulty. Well, so that way we are creating three different partitioning in the network. Now, what these faulty nodes are going to do, for the time being, assume that all these faulty nodes are kind of Byzantine faulty. If these nodes are Byzantine faulty, what they are going to do, they are going to send different information to this different partition. Well, so they are sending 0 in one side and 1 in other side. And at the same time, what they are going to do, they are preventing the messages getting passed from the left-hand side network to the right-hand side network. Well, now if that is the case, then you see that in this case, I will never be able to reach consensus. So what will happen? That who is going to, so ultimately what I have to do, that a part of the node or a set of the node in the network should prevent the faulty node or should subside the faulty node from the network. Well, so that means they will ensure that the faulty nodes are not the majority nodes in the network. Well, so if that is the case, then what we can do, so this left-hand side partition, that means PL is going to talk to these faulty nodes and PR is also going to talk to these faulty nodes. Now to reach to a consensus, what we can do, that we can break the tie. So we have to break this tie. Either we have to break the tie between the communication during the communication between PL and PF, or we have to break the tie during the communication between PF and PR. So what we can do, that we can put one additional node either at PL or at PR. Now, if I am going to put one additional node at PL, then PL becomes A plus 1. So PL has a clear majority compared to PF. So PL will help the network to reach to a consensus. So whatever PL is going to propose, that is going to be the majority. If PL is proposing 0, then 0 is going to be the majority. If PL is proposing 1, then 1 is going to be the majority. Well, or what you can do, that you can put this additional node in PR as well. So in that case, PR, the nodes in the PR, they are going to break the tie while communicating with the PF. So in that case, what the nodes in PR is going to propose, that is going to be the consensus. So if they are proposing a 0, 0 is the majority, so 0 will be the consensus. Or if they are going to propose 1, 1 will be the majority. So they will reach to 1 in consensus. Right? So that way, what we can see, that finally I need 3f plus number of nodes to reach consensus. Well, so again, I'm saying that this is not a kind of formal proof. If you try to prove it formally, you need to consider all other different constants that can happen. But this is a kind of simple way through which you can visualize what is happening in the network, what is happening in your network. And accordingly, you can try to find out that how we can break the tie to reach to a consensus. Right? So this is the kind of broad idea or the inherent idea behind the different kind of formal proofs which are being used to validate this particular theorem, that with f number of faulty nodes in total, I need 3 plus 1 number of nodes to reach consensus. Well, so broadly, what we assume, that these faulty nodes, they are going to create a partitioning in the network, and when they are going to create a partitioning in the network, in this particular case, I need to break the tie. So because I have a partition in the network, so the two extreme partitions, they cannot talk to each other. So either the leftmost partition need to have a majority to deceive the faulty nodes, or the rightmost partition need to have a majority to deceive the faulty nodes. That way we can reach to consensus. And another thing you should keep in mind, that whenever we are saying that a set of faulty nodes, so the faulty nodes are going to do some kind of misbehavior. Well, so the correct nodes which are they are in the nodes, so all the correct nodes always make similar kind of proposal. So they either collectively propose, or they either agree to 0, or they either agree to 1. Well, so that way we can reach consensus by putting one additional node in one of the partitions, which becomes the majority to break the tie, and then it helps the network as a whole to reach to certain consensus. So this is the kind of broad idea. Any doubt or any question at this point? Okay.
So the nodes in PF don't give any decision, like the PL and PR, they are proposing the value. Are they just only acting as a channel that transfer values?
You can assume it in that way, that they are just going to. So if I just try to present in the terms of Paxos, just think of the way this Paxos algorithm works. You can just think of these nodes are the acceptors of Paxos. Well, so these nodes are the acceptors of Paxos. That means this node are going to send certain information among themselves to reach to a consensus. Well, so it is something like that. assume that I have a separate proposer, and that proposer is proposed certain value. Well, and then the correct, so the proposer has proposed a 1. Well, so when the proposers are proposing a 1, during that time, every node they are going to share that information with each other. And in that scenario, the correct node will say that the proposer has said 0, and the faulty node will say, if it is a crash fault, you can assume that the faulty node is not going to respond to anything, or the faulty node is saying 1. But if it is a Byzantine node, that Byzantine node, whenever they are sending the message to its peers, to some peers it will say that the proposer has said 0, and to some peers it will say that the proposer is saying a 1. So that is the kind of environment that we are considering here.
Yes, sir, got it. Yes.
Okay. So the partitioning idea that I tried to post to you, so that partitioning idea actually explained in again one of the pioneering paper that we are going to discuss, that calls about practical Byzantine fault tolerance or PBFT. The original paper by Lamport, it used a different kind of proof to prove this kind of axiom that with a faulty nodes you need 3 plus 1 nodes to reach consensus when you are considering that you have Byzantine nodes in place. So that particular paper, they have used a kind of formal proof by considering that you have 3 different nodes and every node is going to send zeros and ones. So it represents it in the form of a triangle. So if you look into any standard distributed system course, so majority of the course tries to show that particular proof. But here I have just, because we are more focused on the blockchain and we are going to learn more about that, how this particular algorithm is useful for blockchain. I have tried to avoid the formal proof in details and tried to give you an idea that why do I need 3 plus 1 node. So this particular theorem is very important for us whenever we are going to design the exact algorithm and whenever we are going to do certain kind of modification on that algorithm. Right? So ideally, always keep in your mind that this kind of Byzantine nodes, they are going to create a kind of partition in the network. And from that particular aspect, always try to think of that, how you can avoid such kind of partition. So any other query?
Sir, we are not counting the vote of proposers.
So for the timing, just assume that the proposers are the clients who are sending some information. Okay. We'll see that we are going to see here that the model is a bit different for CFT and BFT. In case of CFT, what you can do that you can directly send your votes to the proposer, and then whenever you are sending your vote to the proposer, final vote to the proposer or the learner, so the proposer or the learners, they are going to look into that and they are actually going to take the decision. So in case of CFT algorithm, one of the important construct or important assumption is that this proposer or the learner, they cannot be faulty. Well, so if a proposer is proposing something, then whenever you are going to send a vote to the proposer, then this proposer is going to count it and the proposer is going to decide about what to do. Well, but in case of Byzantine fault tolerant architecture, we actually consider a perfect distributed system, and we do not assume that there can be a node which is non-faulty, or a kind of central node which is always non-faulty, which can collect the votes and combine the votes to take the decision. Well, that we assumed in case of CFT, because in case of Byzantine fault tolerant algorithms, the primary factor which comes into the mind that it is the kind of malicious behavior from the node. So when such malicious behavior can happen, the malicious behavior can happen when you have some kind of attacker in the node. So the attacker is either the attacker itself is doing that malicious behavior, or the attacker is convincing others to do the malicious behavior. Well, that we actually call, so in terms of distributed system or in terms of cryptographic construct, we say that the attacker is colluding other nodes. So colluding other nodes means the attacker is somehow forcing those nodes to also show the malicious behavior. So whenever we are assuming that they are kind of malicious, this kind of malicious behavior, it is not good to assume that I always have certain central nodes which I can trust completely, like the proposer or like the learner, well, which will never see a fault. So in case of CFT model, that's why you have assumed that out of the say n number of acceptors which were there at a single instance, there can be a maximum of n by 2 minus 1, that many number of acceptors can be faulty. Or if, in other words, if you have f number of faulty nodes, then you can have, you need at least 2f plus 1 number of acceptors to accept the proposal. So that was in the case of CFT. But in case of BFT, the idea is we are moving towards this attack and all this scenario. That's why we are receiving from the protocol. We are thinking of a different protocol where any node can be attacked. Well, so the client is going to send certain message. The client is going to broadcast certain message in the network. And now the nodes in the network, they need to collectively decide whether I should accept the message, whether the message is correct or the message is wrong. So the correct nodes, they always say that the message is, means if the message is correct, they will always say that the message is correct. That means they will always say 1. If the message is wrong, they will always say it is 0. But the faulty nodes, which are Byzantine faulty, which are going to show malicious behavior, sometimes they will say that the message is correct, sometimes they will say that the message is wrong. So to some nodes, they are going to say 1, to some nodes, they are going to say 0. Now, in this case, we'll see that we need to actually send or communicate message across all the nodes to reach to a consensus. Okay, so that is the kind of philosophical or from the perspective of the formulation or the architecture of the problem. This is the kind of basic difference between the CFT model and the BFT model. Okay. Any other doubt? Fine. So let us see the BFT consensus, different kind of BFT consensus algorithm in detail. So as I have mentioned earlier, this idea of BFT consensus was proposed by Lamport, Szostak and Peace in 1982 in this particular paper, that the Byzantine generals problem that got published in ACM Transactions and Programming Languages and Systems. So that particular paper first introduces this Byzantine general problem, and it introduces this concept of Byzantine agreement protocol. This Lamport-Szostak Peace algorithm, it is a kind of very simple algorithm based on message passing across all the participants. But they consider an environment, first of all, which is synchronous. Then the communication channel is reliable. That means you do not have any loss of message. Then they assume a fully connected network. That means whenever you are going to send certain message, all of your peers are going to receive that message. Well, so because you are considering a fully connected network with communication, with reliable communication channel and synchronous environment. So you broadcast a message, and that message will be received by all of your peers. And the final assumption that they make is that the receivers always know the identity of the sender. So the receivers know that who has sent it, so that they can differentiate between duplicate messages. So that way, I think there is a reason I'm not going to the details of the algorithm. With this constant, if I just ask you to think of an algorithm which can solve the Byzantine agreement, can you just take a couple of minutes and let me know what can be the algorithm? So I'm assuming a fully connected network. I'm assuming a reliable communication channel. I'm considering a synchronous environment, and I'm also considering that the receivers always know the identity of the senders. Well, now with these particular assumptions, try to think of an algorithm that can solve the Byzantine generals problem. It is simple. Any one of you, just think of it. An agreement is based on majority vote. So what can be the algorithm?
Let all the nodes broadcast their message to every other node and then take the majority votes.
Exactly. So let every node broadcast a message to all other nodes and take the majority voting. You remember the same thing we have done at the beginning. Means whenever I was explaining the problem with you about one commander, two lieutenants, or one commander, three lieutenants. Well, so the lieutenants are going to share the message among themselves, and from there they are going to find out whether the lieutenant is faulty or whether the commander is faulty, and they are going to take the majority voting to reach to consensus, right? So that is the kind of algorithm which was actually proposed by Lamport, Shostak, and Pease in this pioneering paper. So if you look into the paper, the same algorithm has been written in a fancy way, that means in an algorithmic format. But the core idea is something like that. You broadcast a message, and once you are broadcasting the message, so you are assuming that it is a synchronous, reliable communication channel and a fully connected network, and you know that receiver's identity, sender's identity. So that way, whenever someone is sending the message, it is guaranteed that the message is going to be received by others because it is a fully connected network. It is a reliable synchronous channel, and you know the sender's identity. That way, you can find out the duplicate message. You can eliminate the duplicate messages, and finally, you can do a counting on the majority. That majority of the people what messages you have received, and that is the consensus. So this particular 1982 paper by Lamport and his colleagues that actually designed this algorithm, and they give a formal proof of that algorithm. Now, as you can immediately understand that all these assumptions are kind of unrealistic assumptions for a real network, right? Because in a real network, you cannot assume that the channels are reliable. Well, the synchronous thing, I will discuss it later on, possibly in the next class, that it is actually a kind of debate among the distributed system guys, that whether we can consider this our real network as a synchronous model or an asynchronous model. Or from there, people have also derived different kind of term like pseudo-synchronous or kind of strong synchronous, weak synchronous, all these different variants of synchronous stuff. And that is the reason, if you remember that before I started this our discussion on permission blockchain consensus, I shown you a cartoon where two people, so there is a 6 or 9 which is written. Whenever you are looking it from one direction, it looks like a 6. Whenever you are looking from another direction, it looks like a 9. So in the distributed system community, that always keeps on happening. You will see that some paper is arguing that, well, my real network is not a fully asynchronous network. Rather, it is a kind of weak synchronous network, weak asynchronous network. And from there, they designed the algorithm, well, by taking that particular assumptions. So there is a kind of, again, I would say, a kind of very interesting paper that got published in, I think, in 2018 or 2019. I forgot the exact year. That also published in Usenix OSTI, which talks about a fault tolerant architecture that they call it as the cross fault tolerant or XFT. Well, so they have designed a variant of a Paxos for cross fault tolerant architecture that they say as the XPaxos. So I would also point out that paper to you and suggest you to read it. They have shown that by doing a kind of minor variation over the CFT algorithm, the crash fault tolerant algorithm, like the Paxos or Raft, you can reach to Byzantine consensus. Well, so that kind of things the distributed system guys keep on doing. Well, so they propose different kind of algorithms, and someone claims that this is good for the network, some others claim that that is good for the network, and that way a large number of or different variants of BFT consensus protocols have been emerged. Well, and it is difficult to say that which one is going to work in which scenario. So typically different practical distributed system architecture, they have adopted different protocol, and everyone claimed that their protocol is the best one. Well, but we are going to talk about one fundamental protocol, and majority of the variants of that today's distributed consensus are kind of variants of this protocol, which is called a practical Byzantine fault tolerant, or PBFT. That got published in Usenix OSTI in 1999, and indeed we are going to talk about blockchain. So many of the permission blockchains like Hyperledger Fabric, Tendermint, all they use this PBFT as their consensus algorithm. So this PBFT actually use the cryptographic techniques to release many of the unrealistic, so-called unrealistic assumptions that have been made in the Lamport, Shostak, or Peace algorithm. So they consider asynchronous environment. They consider unreliable communication channel, that which the messages can be lost. They do not assume a fully connected network, and indeed they assume that there can be a network fault. So when there can be a network fault, obviously your network cannot be fully connected. And they do not assume that you know the identity of the sender. Rather, they assume the existence of the digital signature through which you can authenticate or you can validate the messages that you are going to receive from a sender. So in the next class, we are going to look into this PBFT algorithm in details, and we are going to see that how PBFT is applied in the context of blockchain, or how Hyperledger Fabric or different other protocol they use PBFT. So today I'm just going to stop here, and in next class we are going to discuss that in details. So any query up to this point?
Sir, I have a query regarding the assumption. So is it okay to assume that there will be messages may get lost, because we can establish something over TCPs, and that way we will have reliable message passing, right?
Yeah, so that was the thing I was telling you, right? So people do different kind of claims. So people say that, well, in a realistic peer-to-peer network, so ultimately you are going to run this consensus protocol on top of an overlay. Now, whenever you are running it on top of an overlay, now it might happen that the underlying communication channel that you have, it considers not a single TCP connection, rather it does it in this way. So you have kind of multi-hop TCP. You are sending the message to one node, and that node is sending it to others. Well, so just like think of a kind of a typical blockchain network. Well, so it is not like that the network is fully connected. Rather, what is going to happen? One peer is going to receive the message and going to rebroadcast to others. Well, now if that peer is not going to rebroadcast the message to others, or selectively broadcast it to others, now what might happen that you do not receive the message. Well, so that way you can assume that, well, the message got lost. So that way, and again, as I was mentioning, that it is just like how you are looking the architecture, or how you are looking the platform, whether you are looking it as a 6 or whether you are going to look it as 9. Well, so from my personal take is that both are correct. Well, it entirely depends on your application, that how you have designed your underlying application. If you can design the underlying application in such a way that the communication channel is always reliable, that means you do not have any kind of message loss, then it is fine to assume that. Okay. So I can just share one of my experience. So we had done some work, and we had submitted it in one of the conferences. That our protocol was completely based on this XFT model that I just mentioned you, that call it as the cross fault tolerant. They consider something in between synchronous and asynchronous system, which they differentiate asynchronous into strong asynchrony and weak asynchrony. So we considered that model and we submitted our paper, and one of the reviewer mentioned that I am not a big fan of CFT. sorry, I am not a big fan of XFT. So I do not really know that, or I really do not care whether you are going to use XFT or not. I always focus on the FLP impossibility and try to see the correctness of your protocol from the perspective of FLP impossibility. So that was the personal view of that reviewer. But XFT have been implemented in many of the practical systems. Okay. Okay, fine then. Thank you. So we are going to meet in the next class, and tomorrow we are going to have a tutorial. And at the same time, as we announced earlier, that tomorrow we are going to have a quiz, a short quiz, some MCQs from the topic that we have covered after your first test. Okay, I'm going to drop a message or going to drop a mail to